welcome. My name is Ansu. If you're new here, consider subscribing down below. Today I'm here to talk about the books I read in August. I thought I read a lot more than this, but I only ended up reading 5, which it's great. I'm not saying it's a bad number, but I did think I read more than that. Anyway, I did read 5 books. Let's talk about them, and yeah, let's get right into it. The first one I finished is Light We Carry by Michelle Obama. I got this like in November, right when it came out. I pre-ordered this and I was like so ready to read it. Never really got around to it, but I finally was able to finish this book, and honestly, it's great. It's Michelle Obama. If you listen to the audiobook, it's even better in my personal opinion. Basically, the way that she overcame a lot of difficulties in her life, and I think it's pretty well done. It has some really nice advice. I enjoyed it. It was a good time. It really just tells you to not be a chicken, essentially, and I liked it. It was a good book. Next up, I got an ARC, which is an advanced reader copy from HarperCollins, and that was for Just Another Missing Person by Gillian McAllister. Gillian McAllister is a thriller author, and I was very excited to get this book to see what this author was going to showcase in this story. I was very, very excited, and this one really follows around Julia, who is a detective. She's basically heading up this case of a missing person named Olivia. Olivia kind of disappeared out of nowhere. She literally just is seen on one CCTV camera, and she goes into an alley, which is basically a dead end, but she goes through that place and then she's never seen again. We really don't know what happened to her, how she disappeared, nothing. We have no details about this woman. So Julia is really trying to figure out this case and see what happened, who abducted her, if she's alive and everything like that. The more Julia is going into the case, someone's threatening her with a secret that nobody else knows about her, and Julia is terrified as well. It's a very interesting plot line of a detective almost going rogue, becoming a bad cop because of a terrible situation, and it's just seeing how Julia kind of handles that whole situation as well. I thought this was a really well done book. I think I give it like 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It was a really fun time, and it was really thrilling. Next up, I read 5 Survive by Holly Jackson. This one follows around 6 people who go on this trip, like a graduation after high school kind of a trip essentially. They're going to have a good summer break, and these people are in RV and they're traveling through these dark places, and somehow they get into the woods and get stuck there. In this darkness, like I mentioned, they end up in the woods, but not only that, somehow their tires get blown up and they realize they're getting shot at. Like their RV got shot at, so they're terrified. Obviously, they're trying to take shelter in the RV. There's nowhere to go. There's no reception. Like, it's totally messed up, and these kids are trying to figure out what's happening. And essentially, the person who's shooting at them is telling them that one of them has a secret that they're trying to figure out, and if that secret is given up, everything will be fine. They will be let go, etc., etc. So they're trying to figure out the secret between them. Some people end up dying, and it's a very, very interesting story to see how they come to that conclusion. Kind of obvious to an extent sometimes, like what is going to happen and if things will go kind of dark, and it's interesting to see it for sure. I had a pretty good time reading this one as well. It was definitely very interesting, very fucked up, and I genuinely enjoyed this one as well. Next up, I ended up reading Sometimes I Lie by Alice Feeney. Honestly, I kind of forgot what this book was about. This one I have to give a trigger warning for rape. Like, it's very detailed. Raping of an unconscious woman, a person who's in a coma essentially. It's really fucked up. I literally skipped that whole chapter because I was like, oh, this is terrible, I cannot read it. We have Amber Reynolds, who we have to know 3 things about her. She's in a coma, her husband doesn't seem to love her anymore, and sometimes this person lies. There, when she's in a coma, she's coming into consciousness occasionally. Like, in her brain, it's working, and she can hear people around her, she can see things around her. Well, not see necessarily, she can't open her eyes, but she can hear things around her, and she can understand the emotions that people are going through around her, and she is coming to her senses of how she ended up becoming in a coma, and it's her trying to escape the situation. There are so many twists in this book. There are multiple timelines that we're following. We're following the present day when she's paralyzed, a week prior to this accident and what happened, and also 20 years prior to this whole situation, basically through like childhood diaries. The childhood diaries section of this story is really messed up, like truly messed up, and it's interesting to see that how this character kind of developed, and there's some twists and turns in it, and I really enjoyed it. It's a little confusing, I'm gonna say, just because we're following so many different timelines and it can get very exhausting after a certain time, but it was very, very intriguing, super fucked up, especially with the rape and stuff. But if you can stomach everything like that, I think this is a very good book overall. Very, very good psychological thriller. I don't know if it's a good thing to say I had a good time reading it. It's just really fucked up. Ending of this book is also set up in a way that it seems like there could be a sequel, but I don't think it's necessary. It feels like it was wrapped up nicely, but there is a potential for a sequel. It's kind of open-ended in the end. I did enjoy it. It was messed up. The last book I read was Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hibbert. The author has written a bunch of books that I was was really a huge fan of Get a Life of Chloe Brown, Take a Hint Danny Brown, and After H.E. Brown. This is the same author who wrote all of those books. We have this girl named Celine who is a content creator. She basically makes things like conspiracy theories and talks about all those weird things that happen in the world. She's a lot of followers, I think like tens and thousands of followers, and a lot of people really like her content. On the flip side, we have a star football player who has OCD named Bradley. He's usually the top of the class, except in the classes where he is with his ex-best friend Celine. Usually he just lacks in those classes, but everything else he's like on top as well. Celine, although she's kind of like a nerd, she's also fitting in with like popular people as well. Celine kind of signs up for this survival course in the woods, to which Brad surprises her and is right with her, and they're essentially forced to work as a team to get the prize. I think they'll get a scholarship after they're done with this competition essentially, and it's supposed to be like a very big deal. They end up kind of revisiting their friendship and figuring out if things were truly that bad, and they're trying to like fix everything. Everything seems like a lot of miscommunication essentially. And it's interesting enough. It's a cute romance, and I had a decent time reading it. I give it like 3.5 stars. I wasn't the biggest fan of it, especially like the whole being in the woods situation. Not a huge fan of that. But I think it just took me a little too long to get into the book truly. But other than that, it's cute. I'll give it that. It's not a high stakes romance. I mean, I don't really expect that much out of a YA romance, but I've read books I've absolutely adored even though they were YA. So that's not the reason why I didn't like it. But this one just didn't feel as engaging as the other ones that I truly loved. So it's still a good book. It's nothing bad. It's cute enough, but I feel like this is something that I would almost for sure forget about. So yeah, it's a decent enough read. Those are all the 5 books I read in the month of August. August flew by very, very quickly, and I am planning to read a bunch more books in the month of September, so stay tuned. I will talk about them when the time comes around to it. But if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to be notified every single time I upload a new video. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you all next time with another one. Until then, I'll talk to you in the comments. Bye!